Quite interesting there in response to that. But also, Mr. Kasukuwere, we'd let you go, but now you're back again to speak about the issue of land. Let's talk about the issue of land reform program. We've seen some headlines where daughters of presidents, former presidents, are owning 21 farms. Let's talk about the issue of land reform program in Zimbabwe. Do you think land reform program benefited every Zimbabwean in Zimbabwe, in particular the young people from Zimbabwe?
Well, I'm happy you've raised this question of the land reform program. My take on it, one, is an accusation has been made. I would have loved that to follow up and tell us exactly which farms are they. List the 21 farms. We just can't be moved by a divorce arrangement where somebody who marries and starts counting how many cattle his father-in-law has, how many members he has, how many farms. We want substance. If that is the case, now let's resolve that question. How do we resolve this question? We have a government policy which said one man, one farm. But beyond that, that's why I'm talking about title deeds. Men and women who have acquired our land must be prepared to pay value for what they have. Put aside the small-scale farmers, which is the AE1 farms. The A2 farms utilize the land. If you're not good for it, then I'm sorry. This is a commercial asset. We have created a dead asset out of an asset which is of economic necessity. If somebody is holding 40 farms, 20 farms, let the dollars ban his or her hands and let go. I am surprised that the Mugabes have 21 farms. I'll be very surprised because I have been trying to get the details of the farms. Mnangagwa talked about it. Would have expected him to produce the evidence and say these are the farms. We just can't talk and leave it like that. If you are keeping that silently, why? There has been a land audit, the Utete report, there is the Buka report. Both paper documents pointed out to who were the multiple farmers. We must resolve that by one, giving title to our farmers. Secure title, whether it's a 99-year which is transferable, let's bring back value to the piece of land. Secondly, let those who are holding on to more than one farm feel the pinch, let it go, pay a price. Those who are in government offices, and I'm sorry I have to say this, we have a problem here where someone is a minister, he is a farmer, he has 5,000 hectares or 3,000 hectares or whatever. He needs a government vehicle, he needs a command agriculture support implements, he also needs a loan to buy a house. I mean, there is so much that we can accept from parasites. This can be. If you're a permanent secretary and you have a farm, make a choice. Do you want to run agriculture or want to be a farmer? Let us create an activity, economic activity, out of this very important resource. Our country must be producing enough produce for world markets. We want people who attend to agriculture on a day-to-day basis. And the basis of the commission reports that were made was to unearth any malpractices, any corruption. I will crack down on that matter, resolve it to finality, bring order in this sector. No more partisanship in terms of land ownership. If you can't run a farm, you decide to sell the farm, so be it. Sell the farm and come and live with us in the village. But the land is ours, the land is Zimbabwean, it shall and will remain ours forever. And I'm worried about the current situation where those who are well heeled, who took big piece of land, have now given away that land, this new called the subcontracting program. You can see that this is rent-seeking behavior. We must eliminate that in total and bring about order in this sector.
Well, thank you for answering that, Mr. Kasukuwere. Now, let's talk about the youth of Zimbabwe. What is your vision for the youth of Zimbabwe, especially on political mentorship, looking at the fact that they are the future of Zimbabwe?
The young people of Zimbabwe are a resource. Any country gifted with young people must say to itself, well done, thank the Lord, we have a resource. Any country like our country must look after its people. That's why the Zimbabwe Youth Council, we have a very active youth act that should be implemented, the national youth policy that must be implemented. It is clear. I spoke earlier on about the 25% we must set aside for young people to be involved in government making, in decision-making boards, to say if there is a cabinet, 50-50, male and female, but 25% must be reserved. This is how we start mentoring and creating our young people. President Mugabe was correct when he appointed some of us into Politburo, into cabinet at a young age. Myself, Mzembe, Shongwani, Joao, Chidakwa, many others, was to prepare the future. But it doesn't end there. It therefore means that in all our fields of endeavor, let us create opportunities for our youths. You recall when I was Minister of Youth, we set up a fund, and this was supported by banks. And to this day, actually, Old Mutual is about 5%, 2.5%, 5% shareholding meant for the youth. We collateralized that and got 10 million US. We put up the CAB's Gukurahundi Youth Fund. We went further. We negotiated with the Stanbic Bank. They put up a $20 million facility for the youth. We discussed with CBZ Bank. It was about 3-5 million US, which young people accessed. We discussed with the ZABG Bank. It was a facility. We went to all the banks and agreed on a process. Barclays Bank then, George Guamatanga, was putting up about $5 million for women empowerment. That's again another Atari. It's not just only leadership in politics, but create a diversity of leaders in commerce, in industry. I've talked about mining. Young miners must be trained. Amakolkoza cannot forever live in the conditions that they live in. It is our duty to come, train, respect, legalize them so they don't become pawns or become victims of those who abuse our young people. We reduce conflict in that area. We go beyond that. Sports. I'm surprised that to this day, arrogance has cost Zimbabwe's position in soccer. We need, and this will be my measure on day one, 24th of June, two things will happen. Job Scala will be released, and secondly, I'll get our FIFA back to accept ZIFA and do away with the nonsense that is costing opportunities for young people to play their part in soccer. And we need to continue to therefore give room. And I hope, my sister, you can find an opportunity to read the National Youth Policy, which I crafted when I was Minister of Youth, in consultation with all the young people. It's clear in terms of what must be done across the whole gamut.
Well, thank you for that response, Mr. Kasukuwere. I see you have two speakers there. James of Kwanda, what's your contribution say this morning? James, please do guide to the contribution this morning. All right, you seem to have lost James there. But also, Mr. Kasukuwere, speak about the youth policy. You speak about the indigenous policy again. Which Zimbabwe has benefited from the indigenous policy that was there under Mugabe tenure there? You're leading that policy, the indigenous policy. Which Zimbabwe has benefited from that policy?
The youth fund that I've talked about came as a result of the indigenization policy. And admittedly, there might have been a perceptional challenge about what we're trying to do. But a lot happened. I'm talking about the youth. Come to the communities. We started the community trusts. Go to Gwanda today. Look at the Blanket Trust, which is shareholding in Blanket Mine, in Vumba Chibwe Mine, in PPC, in some of the smaller mines there. How much the community has benefited and has been used responsibly by our traditional leaders to build science and technical colleges in Matebeleland. I'm talking about Matebeleland South. You got Matebeleland North, we're let down by some of the miners there, arrogance, but we still have PPC, UNICEF, supporting the Mguza community. There's this trust there. We gave them money, $10 million. The same way it was done to create a fund for the Blanket Mine. We went to Ngezi. We went to go to Midlands Province. All the schools you can talk about that are new in the Midlands Province, in Shirugwi, in Shishavane, were as a result of our community share structures that we set up. I'm disappointed that the government has folded its arms on this very important benefit that must accrue to the host communities. And we will certainly be reviewing that and make sure that the communities do benefit. I'm encouraged now that they are giving title mining to communities. That should have been the thing we did first, but we did that with the Marange. Out of all that Marange debacle, President Mugabe signed a concession for the Marange people for diamonds, about 7,000 hectares, if I'm not mistaken. And to this day, this community has become extremely wealthy. With good management, I can tell you, Marange will never be the same again. But we missed the boat when we didn't get the full benefits from the Angel mines. We didn't get the benefits from Marange mine. We didn't get from the other diamond mine, which was run by Masha Mhlanga and others. But they were committed to doing something. And our view was that the alternative is that when these resources are expended, there must be economic activity. Hence, irrigation development was necessary for the entirety of Marange, take advantage of the Saviour River, take advantage of the entire Odzane River to bring about water and irrigation to that area, build dams out of this endowment. Now, we did that. Workers, we set up a couple of workers' trusts at Mikros. There's a workers' trust. We have an active workers' trust at Schweppes, which is 40% shareholding of the Schweppes, and we indigenize that. MSIPA, our lawyer Stanford Moyo, are shareholders of that mine. Of that Schweppes, and the bottling play company has built houses for their workers who are shareholders. Go to BAT, hear the story about the BAT workers who are benefiting from their 10% shareholding out of BAT, including the Growers Trust, which was headed by Rodoboka and others at BAT. I can go back to Old Mutual. Old Mutual workers, they told me when they came forward, say, Minister, thank you very much. They are shareholders of Old Mutual. They were given huge sums of money that allowed many of them to pay off their mortgages, do what they could do for their children in schools. So indigenization is not something that is piecemeal. It's a process, but apart from that, it's a very determined way to get our people onto the rails of the economy, get them involved. We did that, and there's no doubt that there is a lot that must be done. I shudder to think of the day I land into the office. I'll crack on rural development. I'll empower the people in the communities. I'll give them title. I'll allow them to have access to resources, just like the well-heeled in Harare can go to the central bank. We need title of the growth points. Those fathers and mothers who supported the liberation struggle did it with the promise that Zimbabwe will be better day after independence. We forgot, concentrated with Harare. We need to go back to those communities, bring them into the economy, and a whole economic inclusive architecture will make a difference. That's the empowerment. The land question has been handled, needs fine-tuning and closure. We move, and we have a document. I discussed this with some people I've been talking to, UNDP. We have a whole document on broad-based economic empowerment. That will be a key policy of my government.
Well, thank you much for that response. Let's go to Tsepang. Tsepang, you can go ahead and ask your question to Saviour Kasukuwere this morning.
Okay, thank you so much. So I have two questions for Saviour Kasukuwere. Question number one, how are you going to deal with the issue of the military? Considering that it is the very same military that drove you away from the country in 2017. So how are you going to deal with the military between now and 23 August? Secondly, you are coming in with great ideas, but tell us some of the limitations that you encountered when you were a minister. Because surely these things you should have implemented them when you were a minister, but you didn't. So tell us some of the limitations that you encountered.
Thank you very much for that two solid questions you have raised, my colleague and sister. The first one is to do with the military. I believe our military is a professional military, albeit what happened in 2017 happened, and I have no doubt that the command element in the defense forces realize and see the need for a country that is united, see the need for a country that is moving forward, see the need for a country that embraces its defense forces to do what they should be doing, that is protecting the borders of our country against aggression, against foreign intrusion, not themselves looking inside and dabbling in politics. I hope and trust that these elections will cure the coup. That's why we're saying let's have these elections to cure the coup. The test of the pudding is in eating. We'll be participating. Let's see what happens. But I have no doubt that the command element in our defense forces has come round to see or accept that they have to do the things correctly. Secondly, the second question you raised was to do with you raised the question of your first question was to do with, sorry for the distraction, I've just been distracted a bit. You raised the question to do with the military, and the second question, if you can come again with the second question.
I asked you about the limitations that you encountered with the minister, because what you are telling us is things that you should have done when you were a minister.
All good ideas come from people. They have to be supported by a willing team. What I observed in our last cabinet was a jostling for power. Any good program that had popular appeal was susceptible to sabotage and spanners being thrown into the works, i.e. the indigenization policy. You saw what happened just after the 2017 coup. It was affected Chinamasa, contrary to what the law provides for, rushed and cancelled the provisions, but he did not amend the constitution, because our constitution is very clear. Empowerment is part of the constitutional responsibility of the government to ensure that we uplift our people. But they scrapped the Indigenization Act using the Finance Act, which is contrary to what must happen. If you want to repeal a piece of legislation, you go to Parliament, not what Chinamasa did. Secondly, you've seen some of the progressive, like STEM, the science, it making a huge difference. But again, these programs and projects were susceptible to sabotage. And as a minister, I know what happened within the indigenous assessment framework, where the Reserve Bank got itself involved, petty jealousies, people who just didn't want to see progress happen, did their part to throw spanners, created all manner of problems for us. But in the chair, will prosecute these matters to their conclusion in a judicious way, and which will satisfy all Zimbabweans.
Well, thank you so much for answering those questions, Mr. Kasukuwere. Let's hear from Jabulo. Jabulo, let's be brief as we are now wrapping up. We are way after 9:30. Jabulo.
Okay, thank you. Yes, thank you so much, Nonhlanhla, and thank you so much to Saviour for coming through. But my question is just going to be brief. We have heard him speak that when he left Zimbabwe, he had to flee for his life because people were shooting at him. My question will be based, if that was an injustice that was happening to you, why didn't you file any police report against what happened to you? And my second question will be based on why were you not speaking up before you decided to contest? Why didn't you speak up like the things that you are saying now, that the government is corrupt, that this is what was happening and stuff like that? Why didn't you say it when you left the country? And or else you are now saying it now because you want a stake, or you want people to feel sympathy for you so that they can vote for you? Why didn't you stand up for the Zimbabweans, even still when you had the power, when you're a minister? Why didn't you say these things were happening? Now you're telling us about Obet Mpov. Why didn't you tell us that 15 billion went missing when you're still a minister? So that because you had the proximity to power, you could have initiated a lot of things that could have saved a lot of Zimbabweans by then. Thank you.
Jabulo, thank you for the historical question. We are talking the past tense. Ifs don't make history. We have to look into the future. I've outlined some of the challenges that I perceive or saw, and I've also proffered solutions. I think the value of our discussion must be based on interrogating what I am putting across to this esteemed listenership. To ask me, why didn't I do this then? That is water under the bridge. I'm raising it. I've been talking about it from day one. I don't remember when I ever kept quiet about the issues that affect our people. This is my first time on Zenzel's platform. I've been on number of spaces, and I've been saying this something in all my public utterances. I've not hidden that. Perhaps I don't speak like others do, but I did my part. I thought I was speaking enough. If it wasn't enough in your view, I'm terribly sorry, but I did speak a lot about it. And so, really, the shooting at my house, well, who doesn't know about it? And why should I hate the police when I was charged with border jumping? It's there, available. The gun, the shells are there. The police saw my house. I'm sure they know what happened, and but this is politics. This is what happened. I am the victim. Surely, rather than sympathizing with me, you're asking me why didn't I go and report, my brother? What do you want me to do? What did you want me to do, honestly, when I had to leave the country running, being pursued, being shot at? I think there are certain questions we ask ourselves or each other as a way of trying to make political points. But perhaps we have also got to be sober and soft. Just have patience with others. It's not easy when your family is attacked in the house and almost like left for dead. It's painful. You must have compassion. I know Zimbabweans were hard people. We Kasukuwere made mistakes, and I acknowledge I am not a saint like anybody else. I take full responsibility for my mistakes, but don't also become another compassionate character who simply says, "So why didn't you go to the police when you saw your house was being shot?" Are you suggesting that my house was not shot at? Are you suggesting that I was not under fire? Are you suggesting that my life was not in danger? I hold no bitterness. I want us to move forward. But that is what happened. But other questions of why I didn't go to the police, well, in Doda, Mina, and Kulumi, it's for you to deal with, honestly.
Well, thanks so much for that response, guys. If you're just joining us, thanks so much for being on board there this morning.